assembly required, but listeners' discretion is advised. Sit back, enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe or follow. Now, let's not keep you waiting. It's time to welcome your hosts of TNT Podcast, Tara and Tina.
You're muted, Tara.
Hi, let's start over. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is TNT Podcast with your host, the beautiful Tina, and myself, Tara. You can follow us on TNT Instagram, TNT Podcast Show, or on Twitter at T_N_T Podcast. The best thing to do is just subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, we're available on all the listening platforms, Spotify and all the other ones. So tonight's show, we're going to talk about the resurrection of the Mopar Direct Connection program. I think this was announced, it was last December. To be honest, I don't know a whole lot about the program. I'm not sure if you do, Tina. And little bits and pieces about
just
it.
Bits and pieces.
Yeah, I just briefly looked at it. I did go over the catalog, and it's incredible. Like, there's just so much stuff in there. Mm-hmm. And it was originally introduced back in the 70s. So now Mopar has brought it back, and our guest tonight has agreed to come on and talk to us about everything and go through it. His name is Mr. Patrick Rall. I met Patrick through a Mopar Facebook group, and Tim and I became friends. And I actually ended up adopting a cat from his wife, Amanda. So I drove down to Michigan and picked her up. They had a cat that was dumped off at their farm. So, and so from what I know of Patrick, he grew up working in his dad's performance shop and spent a lot of time at oval tracks, at drag strips, either working on different vehicles, driving different vehicles, which is maybe what's brought him to what he does today. He is a professional writer and photographer. And without further ado, let's bring in Patrick. We also call him the Beard. He's also known for that as well. Straight shooter, no bullshit kind of guy. So let's welcome Patrick to the show.
Hello.
Welcome, Patrick. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. So I'd only touched on a little bit about your background, which obviously had to do with everything automotive and your passion, and maybe that's where it's brought you today. Maybe just talk, and I know, you've been part of that drag racing world. You've had your own vehicles as well, and your dad. So maybe just talk a little bit about your background and where you're at now.
Yeah, so my dad owned a shop, or still owns a shop in Pennsylvania. He's I think he turns 85 this year. He mostly at this point, he doesn't do much performance stuff other than on my car that he races now. Most of his customers are also older customers that have been with him for a very long time. And it's mostly basic maintenance things. In Pennsylvania, they have state emissions and inspections.
Wow. Okay.
So that's a lot of his business now is just, sticker work. But at his age, he doesn't want to be doing a whole lot of engine swaps and things, unless it's, for friends or for our own cars. But yeah, I grew up in his shop, in the 70s before I was alive. It was a much bigger performance shop. As Pennsylvania kind of just got stricter about emissions things, it became more repair, less performance. But all along the way, he's had some performance customers. And growing up in the shop, I was around a lot of when a hotter car would come in, Dad would make sure I was there to see if somebody brought, we had a customer that had a pretty healthy 71 Demon, which I have a classic Demon now also. It was a blue 71 Demon with a big block in it and nitrous. And this was in like 1993 or 4, I'd say. So back then, this was a legit low 10-second street car. In the early 90s was crazy fast.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
I remember that was really the first really quick street car I was in, and my dad's customer never ever drove the car hard. He'd bring it to my dad's shop and say, "Hey, Bob, go out and push the car hard for me for a day." So my dad would say, "Hey, come over, let's go for a ride." And this guy's demon, he'd go out and run it hard. And when I got old enough to drive, some of my dad's customers who had performance cars that didn't run them hard would come in and say, "Hey, let Patrick take this car out and ring it out for a while, get the bugs out."
Yeah.
And then I bought my first car I owned was a 1983 Dodge Murata that I still have, and that's what car my dad races now.
Actually, I've got a picture of your collection.
Yeah, that car on the bottom, the white car I bought in 1994, I think. It ran high 18s, completely stock. But it didn't last long before we put a 340 out of a 69 Barracuda in it. And now it runs very consistent 12.0 brackets with my dad driving. But yeah, I've had it for a very long time. I think I'll have it forever. At this point, there's no way I get the money out of a Murata that I have in it.
Yeah, no kidding.
But it's been in a bunch of various Mopar magazines because nobody really races a Murata. So in the 90s and early 2000s, when I was racing and doing well in the Mopar series, I was the only Murata doing well. So it's kind of an oddball. I get a lot of attention from that. And at some point, I just started writing for forums about cars. And through that, I got involved in some magazines before the industry collapsed in 2008. Prior to 2008, there were so many magazines across the world that wanted to write about American muscle cars. I had a bunch of clients I wrote for in England and Sweden that had no muscle car access. So they were so excited to have somebody to write about them that could say, look at this car right here. Yeah. But unfortunately, when the economy fell apart around the world in the 06 to 09 era, lots of magazines closed and went online. A lot just didn't recover. So there's less of the foreign coverage for me now. But as time gone on, I wrote for Allpar for many years, and that kind of went by the wayside when they went through some restructuring.
That was a forum, correct? Or
yeah, that was a forum with a big history section and news page. But the new company that bought us out went strictly to forums. So I wrote history and news coverage for them, and there wasn't any anymore. So with the original founder of Allpar, named Dave, we opened Stell Power, and that has become our news site for all things Mopar through there. And then I also write for I write for Dodge Garage now, and Mopar Connection magazine are my major outlets. So while I write about every brand to some extent, at this point, I'm fortunate to write mostly about the brands I love the most.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say you do other brands for sure, because I've seen articles and you've done testing and how to look at other things, but your heart and soul is really with the Mopar community.
Yeah. And in the last year, I've gotten into off-road testing too, like off-road buggies and things. And that stuff is crazy. When I go to like a normal, like a Charger drive event, Dodge has the most extreme test days that I've been involved with. Yeah. They have whole days of, Hellcats on a road course. In a lot of cases, they allow passing. So we have some pretty serious track time with Dodge. They have instructors in the cars with us. They have the same instructors from every event. So I've worked with the same guys now for, going on 7-8 years now through Dodge, the same instructors for every track event. So they've been with me in the car through the first Hellcat, through the newest cars, which is a huge benefit in driving these cars. But I also get a lot of track experience for other vehicles. But even those, we might be at the track for, 3 hours and you're on the track for 10 laps and back off or what have you. With the off-road events, they send you out in the desert and they say, we'll see you in 10 hours. Be safe. And we drive. Awesome. It is white knuckle through dust, 60, 70 miles an hour across bumps, over cliffs, wide open. And these guys, I'm the only person in the group that hasn't raced Baja. So to these guys, this is like a nice soft day for them. But for me, it is hilarious. Like 8 hours of dust in my eyes and ears and nose. And it is a whole different experience test driving those things. So that's brought a new kind of, and I got into that through testing the TRX, actually.
Well, I was just going to say, it reminded me of watching you take the TRX, the Dodge TRX out for a test drive.
Yeah, that was absolutely remarkable. The TRX launch, unfortunately for the Ram folks, came during the height of COVID. So they had a very, very small media event compared to what they usually, 4 years ago for a Hellcat event, they would have 150 media come in 6 or 7 waves. Now every automaker's gone to maybe 10 per wave, 2 or 3 waves. So the crowd's gotten much smaller. They don't want to share in cars anymore. Everyone gets their own car, which costs the company more. They have to have twice as many cars. And so a lot of automakers have done less drive events. They've gone to virtual press releases, which makes it hard to cover the industry. But Dodge or Stellantis has done a great job of keeping exciting events. And that TRX event was one of the best I've been to. I went in the second wave. I had a friend in the first wave posted a picture of one like 10 feet off the ground. And I said, oh, that's cool. And I said, that's cool. They're jumping them for you. She said, they aren't jumping them for us. We're jumping them ourselves. So I got there and we get to this big off-road track. We're on this big hill looking over the first jump. And the guy says, all right, head down, hit it about 60 miles an hour. I said, is there a schooling lap or anything? He's like, this is a schooling lap. Hit it 60 miles an hour. And that's how you want to do this. So you just charge down off the bank and you hit the first time and you're way up in the air and you land and there's like 4 or 5 jumps across the track, and it was a day of jumping the trucks, and that was pretty fantastic too.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, I did see some footage of that. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, that's the most extreme like OEM I've been to, or test event I've been to, other than like the crazy off-road brands who just do Yamaha and then Kawasaki. They do serious jumps and things, but I've done Ford and Toyota drives their trucks. No jumping with them.
Is it safe to say Dodge is the favorite to do all this stuff and do writing for and
and every event, like I've been to some really, really fun track events, other automakers, like when the new NSX came out, Acura had an event at a drag strip and had us come out and drag race the NSX, and it ran consistent 11 teens in the heat. But most automakers, if they have you on a track, it's very minimal track action. It's really pushing the car, not really seeing what the car will run.
Right.
Like Chevrolet, when they had the newer Camaros come out, they have track days for them. But it's kind of little stretches of performance. Whereas Dodge, like I said, I've been to, I think, 6 tracks at Dodge now. And they send us out in usually groups of 4 with an instructor in the car. And they say, the instructor says it tells you how hard to go.
Right.
If you know what you're doing, you've been there before, they just say, stay out of the grass, keep the shiny side up.
Yeah.
So
nice.
the Dodge events are just so much fun because we're going, 150 miles. Like for instance, we went to Indy for the it was a combo event. It was the Demon, Durango SRT, and Hellcat wide body. So we tested the Durango and Hellcat wide body at the famous Motor Speedway. Then we went to the drag strip afterwards at IRP for the Demon. So we drove the Hellcat wide body on Indianapolis Motor Speedway on like the big oval, which was an incredible experience, crossing the bricks at 160 miles an hour, in a Dodge Challenger. And then there was a NASCAR race that weekend. So there was kind of a crowd there. So I was racing at Indy in a Challenger with a crowd. It was amazing.
That's wild. Yeah, you'll remember that for a long time.
Right.
Sure. Well, that's awesome. And you've met some really incredible people along the way. I actually have a picture of you with Matt Hagen and Leah Pruitt. And that was Roadkill Knights, I believe, right? In Detroit. You had some interviews with them.
Yeah, I co-host a radio show for AM 910 in Detroit. The tall guy in the purple shirt, Henry, is the main host. And when they have the Roadkill show live, Henry's a road racer. So when they have drag racing shows, he has me come on to talk to the drag racers and things. I've gotten to meet Leah and Hagen several times now. They are great guests.
Yeah.
Very, very talkative. Hagen is very much a real car guy. And if you get him going about a competitor or something, he will not hold back in what he says. Leah is a little more, I don't want to say elegant because Hagen is plenty elegant, but Leah watches her tongue. Hagen one time said to me in an interview that he used to be afraid to be on the track with John Force's daughters. They were only racing because Daddy put them in a car. And that's the kind of thing, and they said, but they've gotten much better now.
Yes. Yeah.
But most drivers won't say that. But Hagen is very, if he doesn't like racing somebody, he talks about it. So
straight up. Yeah.
And he's been a Mopar guy forever.
That don't know who these folks are, they're Top Fuel, NHRA, big time racers. Yeah. So that's pretty awesome. So, I mean, I was going through the catalog
and there is oodles of stuff in there.
Right.
So, I mean, there's just, I don't know. Do you want to start with the stage kits or?
Yeah, I think the stage kits are really the most exciting thing that will apply to most people, the biggest number of customers once they're all released, because the overall launch schedule includes the Scat Pack cars as well. So they're going to hit the vast majority of their Go Fast customers. I don't know what the Scat Pack kits will have because it's much easier to make a Hellcat quicker with just a pulley and a tune. Whereas with the NA car, you can't do anywhere near as much. So I imagine the Scat Pack guys will either have to go to internal work for more power or they'll just have less gains. But I haven't seen even any estimates on those numbers yet. But as you know, for the Hellcat vehicles, at least the Charger and Challenger right now, you're getting big power from the Hellcat and the Redeye cars, up to 885 for the Redeye. 757 for the regular Hellcat right now for the later models with the 717 stock power. And I think that's going to be what really hits with the most customers, because that's easy horsepower and it's all warranty friendly. And I think
that's the thing here in Canada, and I hope Dodge is watching because we get screwed here on everything. We actually we don't have any dedicated dealers for this program, although we are able to order across the border the parts.
Right.
But as far as the warranty and that kind of thing, and yeah, it's just it's crazy here. We get left out of the loop. Apparently, we're just a small part of the market, and that's the reason that.
I know one of the issues they run into is with when they set up most of these programs, especially if there's any mention of warranty or drag racing, like with the Demon, for instance. All the legality stuff they look into all applies to the U.S. And so much of it is, as I understand, is so different for Canada.
It is.
For them to be able to offer, as I understand it, even the basic warranty in Canada is not that great compared to what American warranties are.
It is not. You are correct.
And I think that, I've read about plenty of nightmares on the various forums and things and Facebook groups where people that bought a Demon in Canada read an article that I wrote about how Dodge will honor warranties, and they go out and race the car, break something, and it won't cover it. And they say, well, you're in Canada. And my issue is, a lot of times, since I'm an American journalist, I can only communicate with the American media people from the company.
That's right.
The Canadian folks won't reply to me because I'm not a Canadian journalist. And even if I say, well, I'm writing about the Canadian market for Canadian readers, and they say, well, you're not a Canadian journalist, though. So, I have a hard time getting Canadian information unless I'm getting it a roundabout way through dealerships at this point.
Right.
And every once in a while, I can get some good information from Stellantis US, but in most cases, they can't tell me for sure or aren't supposed to say for sure because they don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
So, what are the release dates on the packages, Patrick? Do they have those yet?
So the packages, the initial packages to be launched were for the Challenger Redeye. They were supposed to launch, I think, I had the date somewhere. It was quite a few months ago.
Right.
By this point, by July, they were supposed to have several stages or waves out. They're supposed to have gotten through the Charger by now too. But as many people who tried to order know, nothing's available yet because the EPA, as I understand it, isn't playing nice about the fact that Dodge is tinkering with tuning. For those who know, the EPA, U.S. EPA is very tough with right now anything involving emissions. And when you add a pulley and a tune to a Hellcat, it changes the emission output. And Dodge or Stellantis is having problems getting approvals. And that's what they're telling the dealerships. I'm sure that is an issue. I also think that they're running into an issue they aren't talking about with acquiring parts. I've talked to a few of the big tuning shops. Yeah, a few of the tuning shops said they can't get the actual physical devices to sell customers for tuning. And the pre-stage
That's
kit
the
you have to
problem.
have for all these direct connection kits starts with it looks like a Diablo Sport tuner. I'm pretty sure it's Diablo Sport.
I think I
It's-
actually have a shot of it, but I did read that you need one to get to the next to get,
Right.
so if you're missing that component in between, that's no
Right.
good.
Like I talked to Tim Holmberg from Holmberg Motorsports out in the Las Vegas Mopar event, and he was saying the problem he's running into with customers is if you just want to tune, you want to come in, have your car tuned and leave, he can do that. If you want to leave with a tuning device that you can have more tunes, he can't get the device. And maybe it's changed. That was a month and a half ago.
Right.
But a lot of the tuners I know are having a hard time getting the physical devices because they're all microchip heavy. And we're into that shortage now. So a lot of the tuning device companies can't provide parts. And the base of every direct connection stage kit is a tuning device. So I wonder if it's a little bit of an EPA issue, but also a little bit of a production constraint issue for the tuning devices.
These little suckers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've seen people in other communities, the Mustang and some import communities post about how their tuning shops also can't get devices for their cars. So this isn't a Mopar or a Dodge or even a Dodge tuning thing.
Right.
There's just a note there popped up.
Yeah, HP tuners are on back order right now.
Right, and that's I've seen a bunch of companies that are just saying that they're freezing orders and things because they can't fulfill orders, and they don't know when they can fulfill those orders because they don't have any real input as to when the chips will be available. And if in the long run, until they can get those tuning devices, they really can't do anything with direct connection and with the newer cars.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, direct connection does have a very large classic car section. But I haven't really gone through it part by part, but for
they do. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I have some of the vintage from the original direct connection, which I got to tell you, I kind of like the marketing and stuff from then than now, almost a little bit. That retro look.
Right.
So where do people get the direct connection catalog? In the dealers, or can they order them? Or
I don't know if you can actually get the print catalog.
Okay.
Excuse me. I know that I have a print catalog because a bunch of journalists got it ahead of time to look at.
Yeah.
But it came with a letter from Tim that said that this year we printed you a catalog. Most people use the online instead.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the catalog. I'd like to think if you bought a $3,000 kit, you at least get a catalog with it, right?
Right.
Especially if you're spending money, that's how you spend more money. Here's a book to spend money.
Right.
But I think the best way I've seen to see it is really, the online Dodge Garage version is really nice. It's all interactive, so you can go to the table of contents and click if you want to look at classic cars, new cars. I think a lot of the classic car stuff has been available for a longer period of time through the Mopar Performance Catalog. But they're kind of rolling that into the direct connection, which makes sense because back in, I don't remember the exact year, whenever direct connection ended previously, it kind of rolled into Mopar Performance.
I was going to ask when it kind of ended. Like it started in 74, I believe, like originally, and went into the 80s.
I feel like it ended, and then I feel like when I started driving in the mid 90s, it was still a thing. I know that in the mid 90s, they had a hotline you could call. And as long as you had a fully Chrysler built vehicle, so Chrysler engine, trans, body, chassis, you could call them, tell them the specs of your vehicle, top to bottom. They'd tell you what it'd run in the quarter mile. So I called my Murata and I said, I have a Murata with this build 340. And they said, that motor won't even run. And I said, well, it ran high 12s last night. And they called me back and they said, we want to see this car. Will you beat the Mopar National? We have an engineer want to see the car. So the engineer came out and looked at my car, went all over it. They gave me my $3 back for the phone call. But they wanted proof that my car ran what it did. They went over, they looked at the heads. They couldn't see the cam, obviously, but they looked all over the motor to make sure I was really running these numbers with a Murata, because the Muratas are fairly heavy for what they are. So back in the 90s, they still had the hotline. So I don't know if they didn't really have the warranty parts at that point, but they definitely had the factory support without the warranty aspect that I'm familiar with.
Right. Jerome has a question here. Patrick, can you see that?
Yeah, I don't actually know. Yeah, so from what I've seen from the information they provided, the Redeyes and super stocks will all offer the same power, but they don't actually specifically mention the super stock calibration. They group them all together. But they also group together the Hellcats, which, you know, if you have a 707 Hellcat and a 717 Hellcat, you have 10 less horsepower on the top end. So I would imagine the super stock would have an advantage over a non-super stock Redeye. But in the long run, it's all a matter of tuning.
Okay.
So it might be that extra 10 horsepower from the jailbreak and super stock is coming from an RPM change, as I understand. So it might be that everyone comes to the same horsepower in the end with the stage 2 kit from the Redeye.
So,
there it is.
Yeah, there it is. Somebody found it for us.
Oh,
Or
okay.
knew it. Yeah.
Right
David
on.
did.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool to know. Yeah.
And if anyone would, if anybody would know, David Hakeem would know. For those who don't know, David Hakeem has been, I think, writing about Dodge forever. He's a Dodge Garage writer. I think he's their most active writer. And I think he ran Mopar or was involved in their PR for a while. So that's somebody who knows what he's talking about there. So I'm sure he's correct with that. He's another guy
be on your toes.
Right.
Cool.
Or they've offered like power brokers, which is a dedicated team at specific dealers, I guess, throughout the US. Is that how that worked?
Right. They initially said there would be 100, and last I saw, there wasn't a full 100 yet. But yeah, they've picked like my local dealership is one of the power broker dealerships, and they have a special. I've already talked to. They have a specially trained sales guy, parts guy, and service guy. So in my case, I reached out to the parts person first and told him what I wanted to do. Then he put me in touch with service, and in theory, if the parts were available, I would schedule. The parts aren't available, so I have a standing order for my parts whenever they come. I'll get pre-staged in stage 1 for my Hellcat, and that dealership has a dyno too, which is a great advantage. They've had it for a few years now, and this is a dealership that even before power brokers really gets performance stuff. The guy that runs the dealership has several very healthy Mopars, including a pretty mean 2-door custom Magnum I featured on Dodge Garage a while back. Big monster blown Hemi. And they sponsored the big local Modern Mopar group, or Detroit area Modern Mopar. So it's a dealership that really understands performance. So I wasn't surprised when they got picked for one of the power broker dealerships. It's great for me because they're real close where I bought my truck.
Right. Yeah, great.
And then they have a great reputation with the local community already. So, you know, not all dealerships have a great rep, especially with car guys. You know, dealerships typically don't have a glowing reputation. But this one in particular is called it's Zot M59 Dodge. They have for a long time been a kind of trusted outlet for performance people locally. So I think they'll work out well. But I've seen some people are like, well, if I want my dealership to tune my car, well, the dealership isn't like tuning your car. Somebody else made the tune. It isn't like, if you take a car to Tim Barth, he is tuning your car.
Exactly.
Whereas, the dealership is installing a can tune that an engineer at the company designed. So
from scratch, not from scratch.
Right. There was a little bit of skepticism there. People who, do I really want my dealership to modify my car? But I think people will get over that. There's just so much ease of use for it. I think there's a lot of concern about, who do I trust to tune? If we've seen stories, James Golden, he trusted the wrong tuner at one point and his car caught fire.
That's right.
So, who do you trust? There are so many tuners now it's one thing if you live by one of the big trusted shops, but if you live out in the middle of nowhere, or if you live somewhere terrible like California,
another country,
right. And you just drive it to see, American Muscle Performance or Tim Barth or anybody. It's easier to call Dodge and at least the tune you're getting isn't going to blow the engine up.
Right.
Because, if it does, it's on them.
It's tested, it's factory, made. It's, they back it up with warranty.
Well, it could, but it's warranty.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
Back it up. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Nothing's perfect.
So can you take us through like the different stage, like what's included with like a pre-stage kit and then stage 1 kit, and
And I think, like I was looking, there's a bunch of different packages for the drag race scene, and like from the drag racing seat,
right,
to all kinds of.
So the stage kits, the pre-stage kit you have to buy first with everything, include the handheld tuner, a thermostat, and an air filter for my car. I imagine for a Redeye, it might not have the air filter because they have a different intake system than do the regular Hellcats. They have a better flowing system to begin with, but that's your basic starter package. The pre-stage is a thermostat, an air filter, and the device with the tune. And on Redeyes and regular models and non-Redeye Hellcats, it adds 5 horsepower. Okay. So depending on what model year, you go from 707 to 712 or 717 to 722. The next step up is stage 1 for each car. The Redeye is a tune only, and essentially they're giving the Redeye the tune from the Demon, the race gas tune. So you get 840 horsepower, 770 torque. And that's the Redeye stage 1, and there's no component change. It's just the tune. And then for the Hellcat, you get a Litton's Hellraiser 317 pulley.
Yes, I was gonna ask about the Hellraiser pulley. Okay, great.
Yeah, so for a standard Hellcat, the 317 Hellraiser pulley gets you up to 747 horse for the early Hellcat, 757 for the later Hellcats. Again, stage 1 for the Redeye is a tune only for 840. And then when you go to the stage 2 for the Redeye, which isn't available for Hellcat yet, that adds the 317 Hellraiser pulley to the Redeye. And then you get 885 horse and I have notes here somewhere, 787 torque. So.
Okay. Now, do you know what the prices will roughly be for each package?
Yes, I had that here too. So the pre-stage kit's $11.95, and that is just for the parts. I don't know what labor will look like. I've tried to ask a few dealership people and say, like, what are they paying? What are they paying the techs for? Mm-hmm. But I haven't been able to get an idea if they're billing 3 hours, 5 hours. I don't know.
Right.
Because for the first one, the pre-stage kit is a thermostat, an air filter, and a tune. That shouldn't take more than an hour to install in theory. The next step for the regular Hellcat is a pulley. A pulley takes a normal mechanically inclined person, a half a day to install. I know the shops can roll through them in a hurry, but I don't know what to be charging. But for the stage 1 kit for the regular Hellcat with the pulley is $895. The stage 1 tune for the Redeye for 840 horse is $395. And then when you go to the stage 2 for the Redeye, that's another $11.95. So you end up paying, it's at $1,200. It's about $3,200. I'm sorry, about $2,000, a little over $2,000 for the standard Hellcat for pre-stage and stage 1, and then when you add on another $1,200 for the Redeye, you're looking at $2,800, maybe $3,000. But that's all before labor. I really don't have any idea what labor might cost. I imagine it's going to vary from one dealer to the next.
Right.
I haven't seen any mention of set labor prices. So in some cases, they might give you a deal. If you're a longtime customer, they might give you a cheap labor deal. I don't really know for that.
Right. Yeah.
But I've talked to some.
I think that they would have them set to a certain, number of hours. They're not going to let one dealer charge 12 hours and another dealer charge 5. I wouldn't think.
I wouldn't think they would either, but it's at some point they're starting to overlap the boundaries of the manufacturer and retailer, and that's a concern of theirs. That's why they can't really enforce not having markups, because if they punish the dealership too much by having a markup, then they're interfering with the retail manufacturer relationship, which is it's against the law. So that's why they can't come out and say you can only charge $80,000 for this car. That's why it's suggested retail price, not required retail price, because in the U.S. under trade law they can only recommend a price.
Right.
And it's the same case here. So in theory, I wonder if they say that the Dodge, if Dodge says you're going to bill 5 hours for this, I don't know that they can really enforce that. But if they can enforce it, and the dealership wanted to flex on pricing, they could do it somewhere else. And I'm sure there's a list and cost for the parts too. So
right.
Jerome had another question.
Try to see how just need priest. Well, I don't know. I wonder when for the Redeye and super stock owners. I wonder if you're going to buy stage 2, you're getting you're going from the big tune anyways. So you don't really, in theory, need that 840 tune for that middle stage 1 kit. So there may be an option to avoid that $400 charge if you don't want that tune at all. But they might have some sort of piggyback tuning, I don't know for sure, to make you buy every single stage along the way. But in theory, if you're going to go from base to stage 2 for a super stock or a Redeye, I don't see why you'd need that middle tune if you're going right to the 317 tune, because the pump gas tune, or I'm sorry, the Demon tune for 840 doesn't apply anymore with that 317 pulley. So in theory, that you wouldn't need that pulley at all, because it would be obsolete without the factory 335 pulley. So that could be $400 super stock owners could make people save if they want to skip stage 1, but I don't know that Dodge would tell me that for sure right now. Because they may try to require you to stack your stages regardless of what. They may have a reason why you need 840 tune to get through. I don't think there is, but I'm not a tuning expert, so I don't really know for sure.
Okay. I see a comment here from Paul that East Coast Moparts might be one of the biggest power brokers.
I imagine they're going to be the best known. I mean, pretty much everyone in the online community, at least in the Hellcat world,
right?
If you need anything, you go through East Coast Moparts. They have, from what I've seen, they always have the lowest prices, and they are, Andy, who runs the show there, he's very involved in the community.
Yes.
So I think a lot of times if you post and say, hey, I need this part, somebody will tag Andy and say, hey, but Andy can get it. In most cases, he can, unless nobody can get it. So right. I think they've really become a go-to for a lot of the community, because they've proven to be trustworthy for the performance community too.
Right. The drag pack, or the kit that goes with the dragsters, what do you get with that? I mean, from wheels to the seat and the body, like body kits, they've got interior kits, they've got so much stuff.
For the actual drag pack cars, if you're one of the people who were lucky enough to get one of the actual serial drag pack cars, they are turnkey. And I think at this point, they can get into the 7s, if not 8s, with proper tuning and good air, good driver. Excuse me. But they also offer a lot of those parts from the drag pack for other vehicles now. So if you want, for instance, a few of the really fast Hellcat guys I know are running a suspension setup that may not be identically from the drag pack, but it's very comparable. So at this point, if you want the drag pack suspension, things like that, you can buy it to put in your own 08 and up Challenger. So if you don't get picked to be one of the buyers of an actual drag pack, at this point, you can buy a Challenger V6 shell and buy pretty much, I think you can buy everything at this point to turn an empty Challenger shell into a drag pack, and go out there with good tuning and run, 8s.
Wow. I wonder how long they'll run this program. Any guesses?
The drag
Are they
pack
just
program,
pushing everything out until things change?
Well, the drag pack program, I've really never heard anything about that being affected by EPA things, because those cars have never been street legal at all. So there's only so much access the EPA has. But the problem is that these companies, Dodge and Ford and Chevy, they have to rely on working with the EPA. So if they're producing things not for street use, I'm sure there's still some politics there. So maybe these cars have some shorter lifespan. We know the EPA is trying to impact drag racing. They're trying to impact the overall car culture. There's a discussion at SEMA every year about how the EPA is trying to cut into the aftermarket by not saying you can't sell tuning devices anymore because that affects an emission device. So I wonder, but the drag pack doesn't have any of that, neither does the Copa Camaro or the Cobra Jet. So in theory, the EPA and all the regulations that apply to street cars shouldn't have any effect on that, on the drag pack and the factory stock showdown cars. but we know that the EPA is always trying to get their hands on the new things.
Right.
And they may get their foot in the door there, and that could have an impact on the racing community as a whole, not so much the drag pack. But I think as long as the EPA isn't clamping down on an OEM selling a non-street legal race car,
Right.
we'll see all three manufacturers try to keep up with something. Right. Really, none of the chassis are production based, but none of those cars are using a production based engine. They're all running a 350-ish cubic inch engine with a blower. That's nothing like a Hellcat engine or even the GT500 engine.
Right.
So they shouldn't have to rely on.
Oh, here's David again.
Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So the drag pack uses a
9-inch.
9-inch
suspension. Yes.
Yeah, I think the Uplings are running that setup or a similar setup to that in their car now. But if you've seen the Uplink car, there's not a lot of factory underpinnings left of that. So
right.
But
Jerome has Brian has a question.
Catalog list. So I'm really not sure about a catalog for Canada. Like I've seen a catalog for the US, but like all the numbers in my catalog are in US currency, for instance. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if they'll print a catalog for Canada or if it's something, the Dodge told me that the program won't be offered there. Right. But they said there will be a point in time where you'll be able to buy the parts through your dealerships up there.
So you just got to make sure, I guess with the US catalog, you just get the part number from there and place your order, have it shipped to Canada. But the thing is too, for us, the shipping, the exchange, the no warranty, whatever.
Right.
It's just crazy. It adds up,
Right. So I think you'll be able to get all the stuff through dealership at some point. But I don't know for a fact it'll all be available, and I don't know if they'll ever have a catalog like that since they aren't doing the same type of program. It might just be a part you can order, not an organized catalog you can sit and flip through for Canada.
Right. I wonder, any thoughts on how long you think they're going to run this direct connection program this time?
I would like to think that they'll run it as long as, again, this is my concern with all this is going to be the U.S. government and the EPA. Mm-hmm. Again, they're offering tuning things, and that's why when they issue like the Helifit engine and whatnot, they say it's pre-75 only, and you could put that engine in any car, but they say pre-75 because then that allows them to kind of avoid emission laws to some extent. But if the EPA keeps starting to say, well, you are a company that's using, is falling within our ruling, I wonder if at some point they can come in through and say, no more tuning kits for you. This is you're avoiding your own emissions things. You can't do this anymore. I'd imagine that'd be the only reason they stop selling them, because I don't imagine it takes a whole lot of the cost on their end to have this inventory of parts around, or to have an online catalog for sure.
Okay.
And a lot of these parts, I think, will be of interest for years to come. I mean, people will be buying Hellcats and Redeyes for they've sold so many at this point.
Yes.
There will always be a market for pulleys and tuning devices. So I wouldn't think that they'd let it go away without. I don't see why there's a big cost to the company. So I don't see why the program wouldn't be able to exist unless the EPA comes in and really hits hard and says, you know what, you can't do this anymore. And at that point, there's no point in Dodge trying to do it if they're running into more financial headaches.
Right.
Yeah, it seems to be getting tougher and tougher, even here in Canada as well.
Jerome wants to know, he said he heard the crate motors are available now, or just the Redeye and Hellcat motors. Do you know?
I don't know for sure. I've seen some of the big the shops in the community post when they have engines available. I've never tried to order a motor from Mopar, but I know that some of the shops have posted recently about having access to motors, but it usually seems to be a pretty slim number of available motors. So I don't know for sure about full crate motor availability. I do know people, the trusted shops in the community are selling Redeye engines and Hellcat engines pretty well. So I would think they're available, but I know there are times when the Redeye engines are harder to get. And that, I don't know if right now is one of those times or not.
We ended up putting a Redeye drive shaft on my Hellcat, but initially had trouble getting it in Canada. apparently it was blocked off for Canadians to order these parts. And then I got talking to a few people, and it shouldn't have been closed off for us. They then opened it, and we were able to just go to my local dealer here and order the drive shaft with the US part, whatever. So,
well, for a long time, I don't know if they're still doing this here, but for quite a while when the Redeye came out, you couldn't buy any Redeye parts without a Redeye VIN. Same for the Demon. If you wanted to buy a
That's
Demon
exactly
drive
right.
shaft. So I wonder if part of the problem in your case may have been something similar where you couldn't order it without a VIN, and you're in a different country as well.
Right.
I see a lot of guys post like, I want to buy a Redeye drive shaft. Can anybody have a VIN? Can I get a VIN from somebody?
Right.
I think at this point, most of the big trusted shops have access to these things.
Right.
But if you're on your own, if you're just a guy trying to build a car in a garage by yourself, there's probably still roadblocks with trying to get some of the Redeye parts, at least the true Redeye specific parts, the engine parts and things, are probably still hard to get through Mopar. But again, if you go through the community, through any of the big shops, with enough money, they can get you whatever you want.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So Andy just sent me a text because he's not able to comment right now and said Hellcat crates and Redeye crates are available, by the way.
Okay.
So
Good to know. Thanks, Andy.
Yes.
Why do you think they came back out with this program?
I think that they've seen enough desire to make the cars faster. I mean, to modify the modern cars. And they know they're losing out on a lot of money there. That money's all being spent somewhere else.
They've been watching everybody.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so much of what they're offering are things that we've all been buying for our cars, takeoffs from other cars, or, kind of,
going to the Tim Bars and the shops and getting those parts ourselves, right?
Yeah, they basically had us do all the R&D. The racing community did all the R&D for them. They saw what works and what doesn't break things. When they turn a warranty down, they know why. They look and say, oh, all these cars came in with problems in a 272 pulley. We can't go that small with a warranty. Let's go a little bigger. And they figure out they come to the 317 is perfect. And you get a nice power increase. I mean, you'll definitely feel that power increase with that. And again, even if install price is high, I'd imagine you're looking maybe $5,000 out the door for a standard Hellcat Stage 1. And again, that's a lot of money for 50 horsepower or 40 horsepower. But if you live somewhere where you have a warranty, a good warranty, like in my case, my biggest concern is braking transmission. If I break a differential, that isn't a huge expense to buy a new differential, But if you break a transmission, that's pricey. So that's why I want something warranty friendly for now.
Yeah. A lot of people like that peace of mind,
Now, Tim Barth insists that as soon as we tune the car to the 40 horsepower, I will soon want a lot more horsepower, and I'll get rid of the direct connection stuff and go with his kits. But for now, we are going the DC route and going warranty safe, and we'll see how much we enjoy that for a while. I'm sure we'll like the extra power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I really think this came down to that they saw there is just so much following to build these cars up, and they can see how easy you can add horsepower to a Pulley supercharged vehicle.
Yeah.
A relatively conservative tune and a slightly smaller pulley, and you pick up 40 horsepower.
Yeah.
And if they can do it with being warranty safe, I think they're going to sell a lot of kits to folks who don't want to deal with the risk of breaking a transmission differential or something, or axles. That's another big one, drive shaft. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out after the fact too. If the warranty proves to be as good as they say it is, once we all have these pulleys on our car.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. How can people get in touch with you? Or like you're on Twitter. Is it at the Auto Beard? Is that your Twitter handle? You're not on there very much, so
I don't use Twitter very often. I mostly do Facebook.
Okay.
And I get a lot of messages through Facebook about product availability and things. So really, that's the best way is through Facebook. And then like on stellpower.com, you can comment in the comment section, and I'm pretty sure there's contact information on that site too, or you can email me directly.
Yes.
Through the site.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm in, I'm on Facebook. I'm in lots of the big Mopar groups, and people are welcome to ask me questions through there and whatnot too.
Yes. Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else, Tina, that we tried to cover? I do encourage everybody to check out the catalog. It's in PDF online, and it's like, lots
Yeah,
of goodies.
I mean, we talked about very, very simple things, the stage kits and the classic parts. But I mean, aside from the stage kits, there are there are axle options, all sorts of options for modern cars and classic cars. So it really applies to just about everyone with a modern or classic Dodge who wants to go fast, at least with the Challenger and Charger. They haven't said Durango yet, but I wouldn't see at some point. There's no reason why the Pulley kits wouldn't apply to that as well.
Right. Hey, Dan, 43 days.
He says
Yeah,
he knows Patrick will be there.
Yeah, anybody coming to Woodward Dream Cruise, they want to make sure they go to Hemi Insanity. It's the Modern Street Hemi Shootout event. It's being held in Milan this year. It is the best event you will see for modern Mopar drag racing. There's some nice events out west and whatnot.
That whole weekend's like.
Yeah, but the Street Hemi Shootout, they have Jeep, Ram, Dodge. They have the quickest of every modern Mopar class. They have a lot of fast classic Mopars with modern Mopar engines. They have a Mustang with a Demon engine.
Yes,
and Dodge is in. Dodge will be in there a lot.
Right, and Dodge will have a display with the Street Hemi Shootout on the Woodward Dream Cruise. Yeah, so for people that are coming to Woodward or Detroit for Woodward this year, definitely want to plan ahead and make sure they hit the Dodge and Street Hemi Shootout display, because they'll see, literally the fastest modern Dodges and other brands of FCA stuff.
Yeah, get your tickets, get your lot tickets, get on your on their website, and
for those who don't know,
that weekend, it's
right,
an incredible weekend.
For those who don't know, if you're coming to Detroit for Woodward, Milan isn't really in Detroit, but it's maybe a 40-minute drive or so out into the country. It's a nice drive, easy drive, nice track. So that's definitely, if you're coming to Woodward, if you're a Mopar guy, you can definitely, or Mopar girl too. The Street Hemi Show is I would say a must visit, the event and their area.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he puts on an amazing part.
And it's just so much, right? I mean, you go to the event, some events you go to, there's a lot of track downtime, guys pissing around, getting ready for this and that. Dan and his guys roll cars through. And they're not, knock on wood, not a lot of breakage for the most part that impacts the racing. And they blast cars through. They get through cars in a hurry. So if you go register a race, you're going to get some runs with your car.
Absolutely.
They go all out with track prep and things. So they are all about getting cars down the track quickly and safely.
Yes, we will both be there, Dan.
Yes, we will be there. I've missed 2 years, and I'm so excited to get back there. It was one of the best weekends of my life, actually.
And
I'm 20 years old again.
And Milan has new owners now, which have been repaving the track, redoing the whole facility.
Okay.
So
Nice.
I haven't been there, but in pictures, it looks amazing. So I think that it'll be a much nicer Milan than you would have seen. I think you were there 3 or 4 years ago, Tara.
Yeah.
Yeah, that facility has been fully redone. So it looks
awesome.
All new surface. I don't know what all they did, but they painted everything. New track surface is the big one.
Yeah.
And owners who really care. The track didn't have a great rep before. The owners were kind of losing interest. There were a lot of scuffles in the pits and things like that. They went out of business, and now the guys that bought the track are a group of racers with money. So they know what a track needs to do to survive and what need to make it better. Awesome. So I think it'll be great for everyone racing at Milan this year, but it'll be great for the series to return there.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, there's some hush stuff that Dan's saying here.
He says, "What do you think they'll bring for Speed Week, Patrick?"
Oh yes.
So I know that they have media events planned every day, and they said they're going to show us in 3 days back to back. We're going to have news on the current Dodge performance cars, the future Dodge performance cars, and then what they call I don't know, there was like a middle step. I can't remember what call the word they used, but there was some middle bridge between the two cars. I think they're going to have probably an end of the line performance car for this generation. I'm thinking the bridge car will be some kind of hybrid. Stellantis ordered a ton of the new ZF hybrid 8-speeds about a year and a half ago. And those could be used for Jeeps and trucks, but they ordered so many, I imagine they're going to have to use them for cars as well. And a hybrid, a little extra power would definitely make a more exciting, a Hellcat with better gas fuel mileage. And
especially now.
Right. And maybe it gets more power too. Or if you get that, some hybrids offer with the low end electric power, offer a better hit off the line. So they may be able to use the electric motor to manage launch and get off the line even quicker. So, and then I think the future car will probably be electric. So I think we'll see a big gas car, a big hybrid car, and then a big electric car. But I don't know for sure.
Right.
But, Tim made a comment, 2 years ago now about if adding a charger to a charger makes it faster. So that definitely sounds like they're going to make an electric charger at some point. And
I see. Yeah.
They're going to target the best, which is in my head Tesla. So if they're going to make a Dodge Charger electric, they'll beat a Tesla Model S. I can't hate on that too much. I love my Hellcats, love the roar, but if Dodge is going to make an electric car that'll beat Tesla and shut them up, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. I'm with you there. Yeah, I know. I see so many of them on the roads too lately. Teslas everywhere. But thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on, Patrick.
Yeah. Thanks for my pleasure. On. Thanks for having me.
And I look forward to seeing you in Detroit. Don't want to miss that. And come back anytime. And we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'll see you at the Street Aiming Shootout event. I'll be covering it for my outlets. So I'll see you then.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Patrick.
All right. Thank you.
See you later. Awesome. Great. Well, some information there for everybody. And I guess we're back in 2 weeks. I think the 21st. We're back. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for joining in and watching us. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.